All right, guys. So again, I'm doing a, quick recording here in the room for the update. For anybody who's not in here live, Rocky has been sick the past few days. He's trying to get better, and he actually told me he plans on doing a class over the weekend to make up for anything that's been missed this week. But thankfully, Bitcoin is kind of holding steady right now around the 2650 level. Last week we had some really great bounce plays in Bitcoin as far low as 2100. So as of right now, the long-term trend in Bitcoin is still holding up. And basically the same exact plan from last week is still intact. It's actually nice to see a little bit of consolidation um, after just a wild few days last week. And then moving on to Ethereum. So Ethereum is actually, kind of similar in that the longer term bull trend is still intact from early March. We've just been making runs and retracements, and you can see after 2 weeks ago putting in a really big push, about a 50% gain in just a few days. The market's just been consolidating and pulling back a little bit. So, just like Rocky said, I've kind of been playing this the same way, just taking some profit into strength, um, and just kind of, being patient with the bull trend. Um, yeah, and I know we've got the status ICO that just popped right now. And as you guys know, I typically don't just rush into ICOs. I wait for, in most cases, the coin to get listed on an exchange. Just in my experience, I've made more money that way. It's more predictable for me. Like I want to see, how the market reacts once it hits an exchange. And if you look back at basically most ICOs, you'll notice that when they hit the exchange, there's typically a flood of selling. So that's why I kind of play it that way. Again, I'm not going to tell you guys what to do with your money. Um, but basically, even like Strat is a good example. Like technically, I could have made significantly more money on Strat by getting into the ICO, which I believe the price was at 7/10 of a penny. But we got in at like in between 3 and 6 cents back in October. So the nice thing is we had time to do due diligence and see how the community reacted. So that's kind of my thought on ICOs. Obviously we're in a bubble right now, and the reason why I say that, and let me just define what a bubble is. Um, Whenever you have people that are just throwing money at markets, right now any ICO that comes out for the most part, people are just like, I don't care. I'm going to throw money at it without even really understanding what the hell it is. So when there's a lot of emotional or dumb money in a market, basically you get really big volatility. And when there's really big volatility and a lot of speculation, my play is just to wait for it to hit the charts. So that's what I do. Obviously, you guys can do whatever you want. But that's just my opinion on it. Kind of looking at a few other things. I know if we take a look at ICN really big up after the breakout from last week. It's basically going parabolic. So it looks similar to Strat from its initial breakout. So obviously, finding targets on this stuff is very difficult whenever you have a breakout of a coin that was basically flat for 6 to 12 months and then breaks out. So could this be the start of a much larger trend? Absolutely. Could it go parabolic and flop? Absolutely. So the only way that you can really manage these is by having a no regrets management strategy, which we're not going to go into detail right now because I want to try to make this video as short as possible since I'm working on weak internet on my travel laptop with less than desirable audio. So that's ICN. XRP, so Ripple, as we've basically been talking about the past few weeks or months, took a lot of profit over these last two pumps, and I'm holding about 20% of my original position. just in case it ramps up from the 00010 mark. So it's holding support, and if it keeps, if the trend holds and it wants to go for another run, great. If not, I've taken all my risk capital and a lot of profit off the table already. So that's Ripple, again, just holding a small portion in case the trend continues. So ZEC, obviously looking really strong. I know Rocky's been playing this one a lot. As of last week, we broke out from the late May high, and you can see we're just kind of hovering above this. So if we get another 1, 2, 3, 4 breakout pattern, that could be a good spot to either add or enter into a breakout trade. But obviously, with it up so much comparable to where it was in March, you just want to be really aware of risk management if you buy high in the trend, right? So, okay, yeah, that was ETH. So we'll take a look at ETC. So ETC also similar, but obviously much more affordable, and also looking like a potential 1, 2, 3, 4. So if it breaks out of the 0.009 price level, that would be your push, pullback, retest, and then breakout. So, obviously there's a lot of things on watch right now. In crypto, you typically go through periods of a lot of activity, meaning moving orders, entering, exiting, managing trades, and then you go through periods of time where you're kind of just watching and waiting for compelling moves to happen. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at with most things right now. We're just kind of waiting to see either a break of certain areas or pullbacks, and to see if the trend and the bubble is going to continue, because this could go for much longer than anybody anticipates. I mean, you're still seeing a lot of public articles on major news announcements. I was actually on Vice yesterday. Vice Money actually came out with another Bitcoin article, and they were just talking about the challenges with Coinbase, and really no new information, but the fact that most news outlets are now on a regular basis talking about altcoins, it's just driving a lot of new money into these markets. So again, you'll never hear me call a top or say a trend is over, because you never ever know when a bubble is over. And this could last for several months or several years. We don't know. And so basically that's why you'll make more money by playing trends and letting it work than trying to overthink and guess when a top is going to be, right? So, so that's ETC. We can take a look at Litecoin and some of those other ones that you guys are looking at. Litecoin, obviously, over the past week has not doubled, but it's started to ramp up. And I kind of look at Litecoin similar to Ripple. If you compare XRP and LTC, you'll see that in April and May, there was a lot of action. Basically, we made 100% extension of a much bigger move in Litecoin, and then it pulled back. And then you'll notice over the past 4, 5, 6 days, it's ramped up from 12 back up to 18 or 19. So if we go back, and again, I'm recording this. I know you guys can't see my screen in the room, but if you look back here, you'll kind of see a similar thing. April, the trend started with Ripple. May got a lot of follow through. This went much higher on a percentage basis and then pulled back. And you'll see Ripple is now starting to ramp up. So that's what I mean. And that's kind of why I'm holding part of the position still, is if Ripple does what Litecoin's done over the past few days, that could be another, I don't know, 30 to 75% move, right? So if that happens, maybe I'll take another 5 to 10% of the position off the table. Or if it goes parabolic, I'll hold and see if it's going to give us another breakout. But at this point, I don't really care where Ripple goes. I just see that potential. I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah, definitely follow along with me. So let's see what other ones, guys. AMP. All right, so AMP also breaking out. So if you look back, the interesting thing about AMP is if you scroll way back, we are still mid-range, right? We're still holding a lot of resistance around that 0003 mark. So this could be the start of a much bigger trend, but just be aware, this isn't like Strat where we're breaking out to all-time highs. It's just kind of, it's mid-range, but there is strength, and we actually just ticked a higher high. So we do have a breakout pattern, but if you look at the price action, it's not as clear as like a Strat or an Ethereum, ETH or ETC. It's still kind of mid-range. So with that said, if it were me, and again, I'm not playing this today because I'm on the road, but if it were me, I would be playing with like lighter position size just because that's mid-range. Okay. Let's see. Oh, Factum also. So, Factum is one that I've been holding for a long time just because we like the project, and I don't typically like speculate on Factum. So if you look at FCT on like Poloniex, you'll notice that this also looks similar to Strat in that it was flat for over a year. You'd get some spikes, and then just a couple of weeks ago it broke out, and then yesterday we actually had a breakout pattern. But again, this is not one that I'm a huge fan of actively trading. This is one that I own because I think the team is actually working on some real stuff, but it's a much longer term play. And the way that I've traded it in the past is I'll accumulate low, I'll take some profit into the momentum, but all in all, I don't own a ton of it. I just own some, and it's a speculative kind of long-term play for me because of the nature of their business. They're working with governments and trying to work on much longer-term projects. Yep. Let's see. Any other questions, guys? Again, I'm going to try to keep this recording as short as possible just because my upload speeds are super slow right now. But yeah, we'll go back into chat. Again, I'm staying away from status, and that's pretty much it. Bitcoin, I'm keeping a close eye on. I've got my alerts set, and if we start to roll over, over the past couple of days, I marked up a couple of scenarios. The bear scenario is the head and shoulders here. If like 2700 holds as resistance and we start to roll over, I'll look at taking more profit off on the long-term position because this is now, it's flashing potential for a top, but we won't know that until the head and shoulders is confirmed. Or, and I think this is the more likely scenario, is if the trend line and the longer term trend holds. Obviously, I want to hold as much as I can. So last month into May, we took profit, 1/3 of my position off the table as we went parabolic above 2,700. And that's basically it. I know Rocky's been catching some of the scalp plays and stuff, but I've been trying to be very patient with this trend, and that's paid off. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.